Ultiworld just dropped their 2024 Catch of the Year bracket, and these 16 insane plays are battling for the top spot. Some of these guys are unreal, but only one can take the crown. So let's go through it. Starting with this first matchup, we got Manuela Cardenas versus Annalise Collin. Alright, so we got Manuela about to come into screen here. She's dancing in the lane a little bit with her sister, dishes it out, really quick, split second, contorts her body out of nowhere for the layout grab. So I know it's super fast and super quick. She makes it look super effortless, but if you just look at her body right there, that junk ain't easy. For the other side of the matchup, this one's just a straight up hustle play. We got a deep shot here. Her versus a defender. Defender gets a swat at it, but in this game, there's always a chance if you don't catch it. So she's just straight up hustling. She's going. She dives, layout for that disc. Really nice looking layout. Boom. 10 out of 10 photo. But now for me and my decision, I think it comes down to not only looking cool, but how difficult was the play. And comparing these two, Annalise had a bit more time to really chase down that disc and prepare herself for the layout. It was still like a thigh level type of catch. And Manuela's was more of a split second decision type of deal. It literally was a trailing edge doing whatever she can to try to get it. So I'm going to move over Manuela to the next round. All right, moving on to matchup 2, we got Dawn Colton versus Dina Elamelik. We got this first one of Dawn Colton. The story behind this was actually kind of insane. Literally, this was semis in the college championships this past year. And literally, we got a deep shot going to Dawn. She had no position here. Don't know why it went up. But somehow, some way, she reaches through and gets the disc. To add an extra layer to this, there was a foul call from her because she says that she got stripped. And eventually, the observer does call it a goal. Like, just watching that whole play develop is just absolutely insane. Defender had absolute positioning. She had to reach like past her head, through her to grab that disc and just to maintain it. That's just super improbable. So big props to Dawn Colton there. The play with Dina though is just a straight up boosted shot to the end zone. It's one of those plays where it's like, oh, did I put it too far? But Dina chases it down like the flash and catches it just inches off the ground. This is just one of those plays where you have to keep on hustling. You can't stop running until that disc is finally on the ground. She never gives up. And she gets it. So even though Dina's catch required a lot of hustle, I think this still comes down to the last matchup where it's like, which one was really more difficult? With Dawn's catch, it was just like she was in a super bad spot where you don't expect her to make any play on the disc based on where the defender was, and she still managed to come down with it. So in my opinion, I'm going to move Dawn Colton to the next round. Matchup number 3, we got Sam Rodenberg versus Leah Baron Simmons. All right, so we get another deep cut here, and at the time of the release, she has a lot of steps on her defender, but that disc is floating and just like, she somehow manages to go up, snags it over her defender to bring it back in. Like, this play is just so nice, bro. Like, oh my goodness. If any play deserves some head taps, this is the play right here. All right, and then with Leah, we get another deep shot. The disc goes up, but this time it's trailing away, and she still manages to snag it right off the ground. I think the funniest thing about this play is that before she spikes it, she's like, wait, hold up, don't spike it yet. She has to check to make sure the observer actually calls it a goal before spiking it. I think that's hilarious. So this type of layout is one that I give a bit more props to because compared to like some of the previous layouts that were kind of more straight ahead, this one's trailing away from her, so it's definitely way more difficult to actually get a hand on this one. One has to make it, one has to stay behind, so I think I'm gonna give it to Rodenberg. I mean, that play was just too nasty, and I definitely think it's the play to beat right now. All right, for the last matchup on this side of the bracket, we got Britt Dos Santos versus Maëlys Lechasseur. I might have butchered that. I tried the best I can, but let's get into it. All right, so we got another deep hook here. Starts off well, but just like the last one, is trailing away. Nice, smooth looking layout. She kind of hit the Soldier Boy with this one, I can't lie. If we go over the Maëlys here, she's going deep to the end zone. Nice little outside in flick. Really stretches out, gets a little bit of height on that layout for the score. Pretty sick looking play. And honestly, I might get some hate here, but this might have been the weakest matchup on this side of the bracket. I know, I'm sorry. I'm going with Maëlys just because it was a little bit harder to snag in my opinion. All right, going over to the male matching side of the bracket, we're gonna start with Rappy Hayes versus Tristan Yarder. All right, so we're getting another deep look. You're gonna see that the handler kind of pumps initially, and you're gonna see why, because I know he actually does send it. Rappy Hayes is totally out of position. He's fighting and somehow gets around and still gets the layout grab. If you told me right now who's gonna catch this disc, I'm like, obviously it's the guy in white. But we play it through. My man just swims around, gets his arm underneath, and snags that thing right from the defender. And then if we move over to Tristan Yarders, there's actually a really good beat. Deep shot from Henry Ing. Anyway, I mean, if you pause it right there, that disc is coming in because initially he is out of position off screen. There's two defenders right there that you would think would be able to get there, but he had other plans in mind. And honestly, what makes this even better is like that spike with the beat in the background. Yeah, this is a pretty top play. It honestly sucks that these two had to meet this early, right in the first round. But I think I'm gonna have to give it to Rafi Hayes here, just because, like, once again, like Don Colton's, the probability of making that catch is really low based on his initial positioning. All right, moving on to the next matchup, we got Jonathan Ng Ming and another play by Tristan Yarder. So if we start off with Ming, he kind of dances the lane to get open, snags the disc, and somehow gets around and past that poaching defender. Like, honestly, I think that's the best part of this play. It's like not even like the catch itself, but just basically avoiding all of that contact, because I mean, creating a dangerous play is still a part of the overall play. So I feel like most players, especially male players, would have smacked and probably like killed that lady. So big props on him here for like dodging all of that, and he also got the score on top of it. So this is the second play with Tristan. Not really much defenders involved in this one, but just more of an all-out hustle play. Really stretched out, and this was a really beautiful looking layout. I gotta give him props. Like, a lot of people give this man flack because when he's running, he's not really picking up his knees, but just look how far this man slides. That jump was smooth. I think Ming just had way too cool of an acrobatic catch to really not move him through. I know it's super unlucky for Tristan. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. All right, for matchup 7, we have Akin Arnstein versus Charles Patterson. So this is another deep shot, big hustle play. Almost a full field huck goes off, but this time we have offense versus defense neck and neck. And just at the very end, pulls away with it for the layout grab. Like, honestly, I love plays like that. They don't happen a lot where it's just neck and neck. It's like a lot of the plays that we've already seen up until this point where it's just like the offense is streaking deep, defense kind of gives up. So I really love seeing this type of matchup here, which makes it really cool to see. Now, I say you don't see those type of plays a lot, but you probably don't see a lot of plays like this next one. So you usually get a nice backhand flick huck, but this time we got a big hammer to the end zone, stretched out, one hand grab, inverted throw. Insane. Like, it's already hard enough to catch an inverted throw with two hands. People drop them all the time. And then to catch it when you're not even on the ground anymore, horizontal, and with one hand, nah. So if it wasn't obvious, I am going to move Charles Patterson here to the quarters. Now for the last matchup in this round. It's actually kind of similar to the last matchup in the female matchup round, but take it to another level a little bit, and you're going to see why. In the final matchup of the first round, we got Will Brandt versus Thomas Shope. So for Will Brandt, I think this play is kind of like Britt Dos Santos, where if you see it, if this is way far out ahead, but that man hustling, just beautiful layout. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Literally got some decent height, more height than Britt did. But it's just, honestly, it's just like pretty, just a picture perfect smooth type of layout. Nothing too crazy. All right, you're gonna see here with Thomas Shope, he's streaking deep, kind of like Mylisa's, where we're gonna get an outside in. It's coming steep and faster, but this time he catches it with the near side hand compared to her like opposite hand, which makes it a bit more difficult. And he did get higher in my opinion, but honestly, like I said, kind of rinse and repeat with these two matchups. So once again, I don't want any hate or anything, but I think compared to other matchups on this side of the bracket, this might have been the weakest one. Still two great plays, but just similar to like the female matchup play, I'm going to go with Thomas Shope just because I think it was overall a harder catch to pull off. All right, this is what we have left going to quarters, so let's just get the business starting with Manuela versus Dawn. So if you haven't been able to tell already, a lot of my reasoning first comes down to how difficult was the play and then how cool did it look. So with that being said, Manuela's was pretty crazy, like I said, contortionist act, split second, all that stuff. Dawn's, I think, was definitely hard to pull off. That defender matchup does come into play once again. Had to go through her, catch the disc, pass her head, and then still hang on to the disc. I think there was a lot of factors that played into this, and I'm going to have to give it to Dawn Colton for her to move on to semis. All right, for matchup number 2 in quarters, we got Sam Rodenberg versus Mylise. Now, if you've been watching, you probably already know which play I'm going to choose between these two. And honestly, it's just like with Mylise, I just wasn't really feeling it for catch of the year. I mean, looking at Sam Rodenberg, I mean, there's just really no debate here. I mean, come on, that jump moving through. Now, this third quarters matchup is probably the toughest one of them all. We got Rafi Hayes versus Jonathan Ng Ming. With Rafi, we can see that he was out of position almost the entire play. It looked like he was never going to have an attempt on the disc at all. With Ming, especially if we look at the slow-mo, I don't think there was ever a doubt that he was going to be able to get the disc, but more about what was going to happen after he got it. Like, if he doesn't go crazy with the acrobats here to dodge that lady once he gets that grab, it's going to be a dangerous play, which does play into the overall catch. But for me personally, I'm going to focus on the things leading up into the catch instead of the things after, and that's why I'm choosing Rafi to move on. For the last quarterfinals matchup, we got Charles Patterson versus Thomas Shope. And just like the other quarterfinal on the female matching side, I don't think there's much debate here. Thomas Shope does make a great play. I don't want to discredit him, especially like how fast and steep that disc was coming in. In my opinion, there is just no way that play beats a one-handed layout grab for the hammer. It just can't. So that's why Patterson is going to the semis. Kicking off semis, we're going to start with Don Colton versus Sam Rodenberg. Now, up until this point, I think Don Colton's catch was like sweeping the playing field. But now since both of these plays were really difficult to pull off, I think we now have to start getting to like which one was really cooler to look at. For Sam's, the disc is starting to fade away from her a little bit, so that makes her have to jump up at an awkward angle and still reach above her defender. And on top of that, if we just look at the snag itself, it's honestly giving me a little bit of OBJ vibes. Don's catch is more simple looking. It's just like mainly her and the defender kind of colliding, and she's like reaching past her head. But I think that's about as cool as it gets. So I think that's the main difference for me. So I'm going to push Rodenberg to the finals. And on the other half of the bracket, we got Rappy Hayes versus Charles Patterson. All right, now both of these plays were really hard to pull off in their own ways. But for me, I think the fact that Patterson didn't have any defenders around him is what's going to knock him down a peg. Adding defenders during the catch is as extra level when it comes to talking about catch of the year. And we can see that Rappy's just battling just to try to even get an opportunity to even make that catch. With Patterson, he has all this open grass and then he just does whatever he can to make the play. So that means I gotta put Raffy in the finals. So here we go for the championship. Representing the female matching side, we got Sam Rodenberg. And then for the male matchup, we got Rappy Hayes. So this one was also a hard one for me. It took some thought, took some deliberation, but I think I finally made my decision. Super tough, super hard plays all the way through. I am not denying that. But it's just each time I'm watching Rodenberg's catch, I get the stink face every single time. So my winner for catch of the year has to go to Sam Rodenberg. Everybody has their own opinion, so let me know who you would have chosen as your winner. And if you like crazy plays, you might like this.